Welcome to the Turning Lemons into Lemonade podcast. Each week, your host, Amy Mewborn, business strategist and advisor, will bring you the stories of how successful women entrepreneurs turn their tragedies into triumphs to create the businesses that are changing the world today. And now, your host, Amy Mewborn.
Welcome, Allison. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your business.
So it seems like a really long time ago now. So back in 2016, I had been really struggling with, I guess it was actually 2015, sorry. I was really struggling because I had had a new baby and I was working as a general manager of a small company. And he would not sleep. I mean, for the life of me, I tried everything and I could not get him to sleep. And I was like really on the brink of having a nervous breakdown. And so somebody recommended hiring a sleep consultant. And it sounds really strange because I had nothing to do with sleep consulting. But I worked with this lady online and she changed my life. Over the course of 3 days, we had my son sleeping through the night, every night. I had my life back. I was able to sleep. And it opened up this window for me of realizing there's this whole online space that I didn't even really know existed up until then. Like sort of, very sort of, in the back of my mind. But I was like, holy bananas. I didn't realize that somebody could make a really good living and do it basically all online from the comfort of their home and help people from anywhere in the world. So I just sort of like mulled on that for a little while, and then it didn't go away. And it was a really strange coincidence. So I was actually traveling for work a few months later, and I got an email or I saw an ad or something for a webinar. I didn't even really know what a webinar was at the time, but I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. It was like how to start and launch an online business. And I was like, ooh, this is perfect. And so I watched the webinar and I was like blown away. I was absolutely sold on the idea. And that was, I signed up for the thing they were selling at the end of it right away. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start to do this. And I really struggled for a long time to figure out what I wanted to do because I had come from a corporate background and operations management. And I was really just sort of tired of it at the time. And I thought, I just want to do something radically different. Like maybe I'll be like a life coach, or maybe I'll be like, it's different. And so it took me really like an entire year to actually come back to the realization that my core strength, it really is the business stuff. And I felt like a bit of a fraud trying to do anything else. And so once I sort of had that nailed and I knew, okay, no, it really is my business expertise. I want to be able to use that to help people. Then I spent the time in 2017 really just sort of building the foundations for the business. So I was doing this all along the side of growing my business while still working at my 9 to 5. And I really struggled with the fear around the security of my 9 to 5 and that corporate salary and giving that up and having, the courage to take it full time. And I started working with a coach last summer who really helped to sort of push me and give me the confidence I needed. And so finally I gave my notice. I gave lots of time at work because it was a small company. I didn't want to leave them hanging. And I finally went absolutely full-time this spring. And it's been amazing. So I had a lot of time to sort of build up those foundations. And it really gave me the confidence I needed to really hit the ground running when I did decide to take it full-time.
So we're going to deviate off script for a second. And I'm going to ask you, because that's a fair amount of time that you were juggling creating a business and having a corporate job. What would you say some of the keys to your success in that experience were?
So for me, I struggled a lot with my time management. So at the beginning, I felt like I was just all over the place. I didn't know where I should be focusing my time and what the highest, level tasks were that I should be doing at the time. So I really just sort of nailed that by clarifying what my goal was for the business, working backwards and just sort of breaking it down step by step. And I started using actually Todd Herman's 90-day year program to help me just get on track with that. And that really just made it that much easier for me. I did give up a lot of my evenings. So I often say like I worked late, but I also worked early. Like I would get up before my kids would get up and I would do like an hour between 5 and 6 And then I would go and have my shower at 6 and the kids would start to get up at 6:30 or something. So I was working late and working early. But for me, I had this vision of the ultimate end goal, and I was willing to do the work I needed to do at the time to make it work.
One of the things that Todd talks about that I find so true is that we're all frequently working toward this element of balance. And he talks a lot about the fact that there's really no such thing as pure balance. You know, you may choose to be in a season of your life where you're working really, really hard toward your goal, or you may be in a season of your life where you're more interested in taking a step back and enjoying your time with your family or your friends or whatever. So that was obviously for you a season of business and sprinting and putting all of those things in place that was going to now allow you to work from home and not try to juggle your side hustle with your 9-to-5 job.
Yes, absolutely. And I knew it wasn't going to be forever. And that's where, in my mind, I was able to say, okay, it's not going to be like this for the next 20 years. I just need to sort of hustle now. And the biggest piece of it for me was when I first started, I'll be totally honest, like I really came from this sort of cut and dry corporate background where it's all numbers and business, and people didn't talk about mindset, at least not in my circles.
No.
And I used to think it was just sort of like this mumbo jumbo, just sort of like airy fairy stuff. And I didn't really embrace it. And as I got more into it, more advanced throughout that year, 2017, is when I really sort of nailed a routine for myself that like started with the mindset work before I would start with the strategy work, because I knew I needed to have the tools to keep myself going when my mind was telling me like, this is crazy. What are you doing? Like it's never going to make it. You're never going to be successful at this. And so if I had listened to those voices in my head earlier on, I probably would have given up way earlier.
I love that you say that, because you just described being, oh, sorry, I've got something in my eye, being a corporate girl, having a lot of systems and everything, and then you having to kind of take a step back and really focus on the mindset work, not necessarily the systems and operations, where for those of us that have been trained in finance, systems, operations, we tend to default to that.
Yeah.
So, you know, for you to say, okay, I have to take a step back and I need to do some internal work to make sure that I can keep myself going when some days I don't know why I'm doing all this anymore. So yeah, yes. I love that. I think that is so important. And I'm very much like you. I don't come from an airy-fairy background. I kind of try to avoid some of the elements of woo, but I have found that those are key components to the success of myself and my business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The mindset stuff, I say you can't just focus on the mindset. Like you still need a solid strategy and you need to know how to run a business successfully, but you can't really do one without the other. And so I slowly started to embrace both sides of that. And I say definitely I wouldn't be sitting here, you know, having this interview with you today, if I hadn't have embraced that the softer side, or, you know, the mindset pieces as well.
Sure. So tell me, what is the biggest struggle you've had, or like the lemons that you've had in your business that you had to turn around to make it successful?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I really struggled with the marketing. So I'm usually some of that person who, like, I always excelled at school. I was always really good at everything, but I didn't really do a lot of sales and marketing. I did other things. I did math and I did sciences and I did other business stuff. And so for me, embracing a way to be confident selling myself or selling my ideas or selling my offers, my programs, I struggled with that like really bad. And I still do. Like, I'm not completely over it, but putting myself out there and going all in and saying, hey, this is me. This is what I have to offer. And potentially hearing crickets or like getting a no, getting lots of no's maybe. For me, that's been the biggest struggle, because I'm a very sensitive person and I'm not used to not being good at things. And so For me, that's been one of the areas that has cost me the most amount of like effort to overcome, because as a, I'm a very sensitive person. So for me, those setbacks, like I always start to go into like the self-worth. It's like, oh, I'm really just maybe not good at this. And, I probably should just give up, or I should do something different. So getting the negative feedback, or the no's, or not always getting a yes right away when you really want a yes, that I needed a lot of time to sort of get a thicker skin around that, for sure.
Well, that is, I think, so important that you were willing to share that, because honestly, I will tell you that I think that probably 80% plus of the women that I speak to say that they've all experienced that to some extent, that we're not good enough, or why would someone want to listen to me? And so all of those things, it doesn't matter how good you really are at something, there's just this internal nagging thing going on in the background. And as you start to get no's, or you're not getting yeses as quickly as you thought you would, sometimes you feel tempted to give up. And honestly, I think that's actually one of the biggest indicators of success, is someone that just kind of pushes past it. Maybe I can tell you what I do. Some days I go and I crawl into my bed and I curl up under the covers and I cry, and I'm like, no one likes me. and that's not the case, but we all feel this imposter syndrome, and we have to deal with that internally to be able to step into our power and really be the people that we are in our businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I find it almost afflicts the people almost more who they are really good. Mm-hmm. And it's like that level of awareness. Some people, maybe they don't have that level of skill, but they're just not even at the place where they would maybe even recognize that yet. And so the people who are hyper aware and self-aware, that they can be more critical on themselves than sometimes other people as well.
Well, you just described me and my husband, because I'm like the person that I want everything to go the way it's supposed to go. And I tend to be very, very type A, and I internalize everything. And he's like, whatever, don't worry about it. It'll all be fine. And it's just, you're completely right. Those people that are used to having success, that first kind of bump in the road where we're doing something new and it's all about us, there's that level of self-doubt that comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the things that I really want to dig in with you on is, you're a profit first professional, and you really dig into what's going on in a business, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I will tell you that I think that a lot of business owners struggle with their finances, because we've all been trained that we're supposed to grow as big as we can and as fast as we can. And I will tell you that when I was reading Mike's book and kind of was hearing some of his stories about how he was constantly putting all of the money back into the business and everything, I think that that's something that most of us entrepreneurs can often relate to. So tell me a little bit about what you do, what your secret sauce is, and how you're helping women entrepreneurs right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I really love the Profit First method. I read the book first, actually a number of years ago, and then I reread it again when I was starting to launch my business, because I remembered I wanted to set it up that way right from the beginning. And it's really a matter of, a lot of people focus on solving their problems by generating more money. They think, okay, as long as I just, increase my top line or generate more revenue, it will solve all these other problems that are going on. But then what happens is they don't have the rest of the business working effectively and efficiently sometimes. Or like you mentioned, they're just reinvesting everything back into the business all the time, because they think that's how they will have more peace of mind, or less anxiety, or less stress. They always say they're like one tactic or one investment away from feeling confident and successful, and that their business is running smoothly. And so then as their revenue grows, all of their expenses just go up at the same rate. So at the end of the day, they're not paying themselves any better. They're not increasing their bottom line. They're doing more work, but they're not getting any, better results at the end of the day. So what we do in Profit First is we help people who do want to be able to pay themselves a better income. Because I don't know about you, but I have spoken to a lot of business owners and they don't even pay themselves a salary. They're trying to just live off maybe what's left in profit at the end of the year, but they're not actually paying themselves a consistent salary throughout the year in their business. And so if you ever were wanting to consider selling your business or bringing on a partner or investors, and they look at that and they're like, well, we would have to hire somebody to run the business and there's no money in the business to pay them. So and that's just one problem, but there's so many things going on and people really prefer to just, I guess maybe sort of like put a blanket over their head and not look at it too closely because the business is working, like it's ticking along. It's just not being as profitable or as successful as it could be. And it gets to some point where it really does cause some businesses to go out of business because they just don't have enough cash. Yeah. And so when you think about the seasons in your business where you might have maybe like seasonal sales cycles, or if your business is related to tourism and you have a bad year because there's forest fires or something going on, all of a sudden your business, if you're just on the brink of just barely surviving all the time cash-wise, a season like that could put you out of business. And all of the work you put into that over the years would be for nothing. And so what I help business owners do is really get a grasp of their money management within their business using that Profit First framework so they have a really simple, easy to understand system to use. And if they're finding that they're having trouble fitting their business into those recommended percentages that you should be paying yourself in these different areas, that's an indicator you need to fix something in your business. So then we dig deeper into the business and find where those problems are, and we put action steps in place to fix them.
I love that. I think that is so powerful. And I will say that I have found that when we're not running our businesses, thinking about the profit, thinking about putting money in a cash reserve, that frequently we end up making decisions from a place of lack instead of a place of strength. And I will tell you that in my business, I don't know about yours, but in my business, every time I've made a decision from a place of strength, it's been a way better decision than me making a decision because, oh my goodness, we don't have enough money in the bank account this month to pay all the bills. And, every business, I don't care pretty much what the business is, there are going to be some months where there's more money going out than there is coming in, because there are seasons, there are cycles, and I just find it so interesting and so important that there are actual professionals that are helping educate business owners on this, because these are not the things that you learn in your accounting class in college or any of those things. Again, I was a financial advisor, and I fortunately have always believed in a huge cash reserve. So that has often kind of helped carry us through times that would have been very, very painful otherwise. But very few business owners, especially when they're new, are really thinking these things through. And often I talk to business owners that are 3 and 5 years in their business, and they're like, I've never actually given myself a paycheck. I've just always reinvested, and I'm growing. And the question is, well, what are you growing for? If you're not getting a paycheck, I'm not going to work for free forever. I don't know about you, but I want to take the paycheck. I want to take the vacation. I want to do all the things that are my why for getting up and running my business in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And I find, I agree so much about what you're saying. And I find oftentimes, especially women in business, they have maybe put a lot on the line to start their businesses. Maybe they sacrificed a bit of time with their family, or they took a risk, or they left a job. And they're doing it because they are just so passionate about what they do, and they're so heart-centered. They just want to help people. And they sort of put themselves on the back burner a little bit, because they're like, well, maybe this person can't afford my service, so I'll just give them a discount. I'll make it work somehow, or something like that. And so they're just always helping and going above and beyond at the expense of the sustainability of their own business. And so if you completely are no longer able to operate and you have to shut your doors, you're not helping anybody then at that point. And it will get to the point, if you're constantly doing it without really giving yourself the proper compensation, you're eventually going to start to feel resentful. You are eventually going to run out of patience, and you're going to run out of money, and you're just going to eventually probably decide that you don't want to do it anymore. So the better way is to just set it up right from the beginning. And if you need help with it, I don't want people to let their egos get in the way, because it's not that the business owner isn't a smart, savvy, businesswoman who, is highly educated and amazing at what she does. It's just the money management part of running the business can sometimes just really change the dynamic. And if you can nail that piece, you're giving yourself way more opportunity to be successful over the long term.
Well, first of all, most large companies, there's a CEO, that's the chief executive officer, and then there's a CFO, that's the chief financial officer. Because again, those two skill sets don't always go perfectly together. If you're the visionary for your company and you have to get into the books day in and day out, that is often very, very draining. So I always find that it's very, very important to empower women to realize that you don't have to do everything in your business. You should spend your time doing what makes your business tick and what you're good at, and you should outsource the rest, because it just does no one any good to spend hours and hours in profit and loss statements and balance sheets and all these things that literally these women often feel like it's sucking their souls dry to have to do it.
Yeah, and it does. It really, if that's not your zone of genius, if that's not the skill set that you naturally gravitate to, you have no business trying to really manage it all on your own, because you're going to not enjoy it, and you probably won't do it as well as if somebody who's trained and just that's their core, zone of genius. Let them do it, and you focus on what you're good at and whatever your own zone of genius is in your business.
One of the other things that I think is really important to talk about with women and finances is that a lot of times the woman will go and start a business, and the husband may be the person that's supporting the family financially. And so the woman goes in sometimes with the mindset that I don't have to make the money. And so because they go in with that mindset, they tend to become very charitable. And when someone says, I need something, but I can't afford to pay you, they're like, oh, well, that's okay. I don't have to make the money. My husband takes care of that, or that's taken care of. And all of a sudden, I think that becomes a mindset that we adopt in our businesses sometimes that is very, very detrimental to our business, to our family dynamics, because I don't know of too many husbands or spouses that want to do that indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so when my clients are coming from that space of saying that, I often run into the situation, what I discuss with them is essentially, okay, what if we were to set your business up so that you were so profitable that you could come from a place of offering scholarships or donations or charitable, have people work with you in a different way, that is coming from a place of you being empowered and successful in your business and having a really positive energy around it, and not disempowered thinking, okay, well, she'll never be able to afford it, so I'll just give it to her, at this rate. Mm-hmm. So I see a few people modeling that online. They're offering one free spot at their retreat, and you have to sort of, apply and show that you are working towards it. And that's a great way to help the people who maybe they need your help, but they maybe can't afford it at that time. But you can't set something like that up in your business if you're not profitable enough to begin with.
Well, and the thing about that is when you make a conscious decision that you're going to give a scholarship or that you're going to do something for someone else, there can be something in it for you too. That person can be a testimonial. That person can be the person that all along through the process, you're checking in with them and getting feedback on the program. I mean, there are so many ways that you can make really good decisions about that when you're coming from that place of strength instead of, oh my goodness, the sky's falling and I have no money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about how someone could work with you.
Yeah, so I have a 6-month coaching program, and the reason it's 6 months, some people, when they say, oh, well, that's a long time, it's because I come from this belief where if you're really wanting transformation in your business, you shouldn't be looking for one night, one hit wonders or like overnight success. So if you're going to take a business and really transform it and set it up, it just takes a little while to do that. So I work with business owners who are already established. They've got cash flow coming in. They've got clients. So the work I do generally isn't for like the absolute startups and newbies, but established business owners who, like you mentioned, they just need some support to manage their money better in their business, set up their business to run more effectively, more efficiently, set up their operations and their systems to just run more streamlined, like a well-oiled machine, so that they can be more profitable. And so I work with business owners who want that really high level of one-on-one support in a private 6-month coaching container. So I find that it's really, people at that stage of business are often they're done with trying to figure it out on their own. And so a course, or it's often a group program where you don't get enough specialized one-on-one feedback into your own specific business, it's not going to help you get where you want to go. So I really focus on that high touch, high level private coaching over the course of 6 months for people who are really wanting to take their business up to the next step and do it sustainably and profitably.
And when people are working with you, do they have an external bookkeeper or something like that themselves?
If they don't already, I help get them set up with one. So Profit First has many certified bookkeepers. I know how to do bookkeeping, but I don't offer that as a service. It's just not something I like doing. But if somebody doesn't have that set up, then that would be one of the first things I would help them get all the foundational pieces in place of their business so that we can actually make some magic.
Love it. So if you were talking to a woman business owner that wanted to scale that $100,000 mark, what one piece of advice would you give her that you think would really make an impact in her business?
Mm-hmm. The one thing I would recommend, if you aren't already doing this, get support in your business. So don't try and do it all on your own. You don't have to be a martyr. You don't have to try and be Wonder Woman. Get a team around you, and it might not be a full-fledged 5-person team from the beginning, but get somebody that can be your right-hand person to help you, because that is what is going to allow you, if you hit that 6-figure mark and you're wanting to scale up to 7, the very next step that you're probably going to be doing is scaling up your revenue, and you can't do it without the supports in place. So start thinking about building out your team.
So one of my favorite books is called The Big Leap, and I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's really about you operating in your zone of genius, and that frequently as business owners in particular, we fill our time with busy work because we're afraid to go to that next level, or we believe that we have some kind of ceiling, whether we know it or we don't know it. And that frequently we're so busy trying to do all of the stuff that we're not really doing the things that are going to get us to where we're going to go. So I love that. I think that's a great piece of advice. So tell me, what are you working on right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, so right now I am actually in the process of setting up, it's actually a second business. So it's just, sort of all hush hush at the moment, but it's essentially a training academy for women who want to transition out of working in a 9-to-5. They want to come into the online space, and they want to use their management experience to work for online business owners such as yourself or myself who need that, that online business manager but their skills aren't quite adapted to working in virtual settings in the online space. So it's essentially a training academy for women who want to get the skills they need and get certified to have a credential that shows they have proven that they have the tools that they need to be really successful online business managers in the online space. So that's sort of like my side project that I'm working on in the background that I am super excited about. And I'm hoping to have it launched before the end of the year. So another few months, and then we'll start to see some stuff popping up.
So your Hush Hush project, unfortunately, has just been shared with all of YouTube and all of iTunes. But this episode won't be out for another couple months. But anytime someone says Hush Hush, I'm like, oh my goodness, what are they going to say?
No, it's okay. So I have shared the news with some people, but the idea stage was happening like a couple months ago, where it was like, I feel like I could use this, and I know that there were I see schools for people to train how to be a virtual assistant quite frequently. However, I found that online business manager is just a little bit of a different dynamic, and it requires a slightly higher level of skill set and expertise and experience. So I wanted to cater to the more established women who do have really strong business backgrounds who want to take that into the online space.
Well, and honestly, the larger our businesses get, operations start to become a really big deal. I mean, if I don't have great systems in my business, if I've recently recorded a video and I didn't properly name it, or I didn't properly file it or tag it or whatever, I could often spend, no exaggeration, 30 to 45 minutes searching in my computer for something if I hadn't followed my own operational systems. And I will say that I think that that's something that a lot of businesses are missing, is those systems to really help them spend their time doing the things that they do well.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really shave off, hours of your day, days off your week, if you take your sort of your hot mess and you turn it into something that is just really streamlined and effective using systems that are easy to follow. Like, some people think of systems and they start to like, gross. They don't want to have to take the time to do it, but it's not that way. It will eventually become like your best friend in your business.
Love it. So tell me, where can our listeners find you? And we'll include everything in the show notes, but for that person that's on the treadmill or driving their car, where can they find you?
So my website is allisonbeierlein.com, and I know that name is German and it's hard to remember. So it's ALISONBEIERLEIN.com. That's my main website, and it's actually just being revised. So I'm going to be adding in the new ways people can work with me on there. I'm also active on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So my Facebook handle is Allison Beierlein Biz, and on LinkedIn it's just Allison Beierlein. So pretty easy to find. And if anybody has any questions, reach out anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was hugely helpful, and it is a topic that I think a lot of times as business owners, we're just kind of like pushing it away, and we're like, I'll deal with that another time. So thank you very much for bringing it kind of to our forefront and showing us how important it is.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to have me on your show. It was my pleasure.
Great. Have a great day.
Take care.
Today's free resource is my checklist for my systems for success. If you know anything about me or my business, you know that one of my key tenements is that I want you to be able to run a successful six-figure business without as much hard work and without as much hustle. The only way to do that is with great systems and great automation. So if you would like to peel back the curtain and see what I do in my business to run my business so I can travel, I can do conferences, I can speak from the stage, and I can do all the things that I want to do while my business still runs in the background without me, please go to the show notes and you'll get more information right there.
Thank you for listening to Turning Lemons into Lemonade, where women go for support and encouragement to hear how other women business owners turn their setbacks into successes to create 6- and 7-figure businesses. We look forward to seeing you next week.